Hi friends, foes, countrymen. This is Angela Paradisney. I'm responding again and for the final time to malicious allegations against myself and my children. Larry Nichols, I think he's called, used to be a black ops man for the Clinton cabal, and he does a series with Jason Goodman. And one of the things he described, I think it's called a wrap-up, which is where a malicious publication publishes something and then other people quote that as evidence. And that's very much the case with Hampstead research and related trolls. I have said this on previous videos, but for those that are newly subscribed, thank you to all the new subscribers, friend requests, and so on. If I'm a bit slow to answer, I'm a bit gun shy because not everybody that presents as a friend is a friend. So I do appreciate the increased support. So for those that are new, I also appreciate that you might briefly support the information I'm putting out and then get trolled with what they call a wrap-up, which is quoting a malicious website not based on fact. So to those people, I'm making this final, and I will title it very clearly, responding to malicious accusations against myself and my children. One of the reasons why this malicious website is able to convince some very good people with normally discernment is that I out of my own mouth, I have shared some information which, with hindsight, I shouldn't have. I've been on YouTube and Vimeo more than a decade, or at least a decade, and I was naive in the early days that, a comment you might write or something you might say, it stays with you, and it doesn't just stay with you. I don't mind, I'm an open book, but sharing personal information about my children's challenges growing up, and issues coming from a family with 5 generations of either abusers or abuse victims, is a very sensitive thing. And I think what's been taken advantage of as well is that I have repeatedly said that, come after me, do your worst, I'm not bothered, but if you come after my children, I'm going to get upset. So that has been used. And I'm glad to report that my children, 21, 24, and 32, are fully grown. And they've inherited some of that fearlessness. And they also all know God. They know truth. They know Jesus. They know repentance for things they've done wrong. And they also know supernatural protection. Even my grandchildren do. So that's great. So I guess the most serious allegations at the moment are aimed against my eldest son. No surprise there. My firstborn. I had a miscarriage long before he was born, and he also had a twin that I lost, but Josh survived. Josh is now 24, and malicious, brutal, vicious rumours are being put abroad about him by the likes of Christine Hart, Wavy Evergreen, Hampstead Research, and others. Dee Gardner, add to the list, who I suspect has been groomed to be a mouthpiece for these originally malicious allegations. So I talked with my sons on Sunday, and we came to agreement that, I shouldn't have shared personal information about my children online, but I can't change that. And there are scriptures that say, you know, there is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus and are called according to his purposes. And the scripture I actually meant to quote was, all things work together for good for those who love Christ Jesus and are called according to his purposes. And I'm glad to say all three of my children and myself and my grandchildren love Christ Jesus and are called according to his purposes. There's another scripture that says that which the devil intended for harm, God will actually turn to good. So briefly again, and this is not, if I had hindsight, this is nobody's business, but because I originally talked about it, Josh has ADHD. He was medicated for it during childhood, which got him a good enough education to gain access to the University of Limerick, study English and history. He excelled in sports. Enda Kenny once said that he would need to watch his job because Joshua had all the makings of a politician. I'm not sure that's a good thing. And some bishop at the school they attended said that he should be presenting the Rose of Tralee. So he's my son and I adore him. And he was hard work as well with ADHD. I know a lot of people think that's made up, but impulsivity and poor attention span is a very real thing, as any parent will tell you, and I was also diagnosed with it. So Josh took Ritalin until he finished his education, which is great. And I also was on Ritalin, and I discontinued that in 2016. Also, I divorced Joshua's dad. I actually split up with him when Josh was 6 and Jamie was 3. And although I don't regret that because it was an engineered marriage and it was built on a crooked cornerstone, but I never realized the impact that divorce has on children. So yeah, those are not excuses. Those are just, he has ADHD and he was from a broken family. So, and he was great at sports and he was very loved and very popular, still is. In his teens, I think about maybe 13, 14, he was introduced to pornography by somebody at the soccer club. I think it was a junior coach or somebody he looked up to, which is not abnormal in this day and age. Around the age of 15, himself and a friend discovered online pornography. And again, I could take the blame for that, but how many parents, you know, do not or cannot control everything that is presented to their children online? You know, it was catch-22. I needed Josh to be contactable because just because of his ADHD and his character, he could be gone anywhere. And I was by then single parenting, and to keep track on him and a visually impaired younger child and an older child from a different father, I just needed him to be contactable. But we all know the downside of phones and online activity for teens. So Josh had a pornography thing going on around 15, and I did admit that when I discovered that, I lost my temper and I hit him with a T-square, which is very lightweight wooden stick, but that was not discipline, that was abuse. I've admitted that, I've repented for that. Josh and I have talked about that, we've had counselling for that. People need to understand the principle of forgiveness. This is how good God is. This is how gracious God is, that we can go to him and say, you know what, God, I did something I really regret and wish I hadn't done and feel terrible about. And you're forgiven. You know, sometimes you need to take accountability for actions, certainly. And sometimes there is fallout. It's like somebody once described it that, you know, if you have casual sex and you get pregnant, there is a baby. It doesn't matter how much you repent, or ask forgiveness or wish you hadn't, sometimes there are inevitable consequences. So I take responsibility for the shortcomings in my parenting, but I also take great joy in the fight I put up for decades to break free from a multi-generationally abusive family and to secure my children's freedom and safety and character and well-being, and most of all that they would know Jesus, which they do. So I did give Josh a hide. I didn't hurt him. You know, you've got two strapping lads, even at 15, you know, he was a young, athletic, super fit, strapping young lad. But I was abusive when I discovered him watching porn. I've admitted to that. And Flow Destroyer Mike Dice has taken great pleasure in broadcasting just edited snippets of that. If you have only lost your temper once with your child and they're 24 and they had ADHD and, you know, parental alienation through no choice of their own or even mine, you know, congratulations if you only lost your temper with them once. So then life goes on a little bit, and then Joshua, around the age of 18, entered into a committed relationship, and after a season began sleeping with his girlfriend, which, you know, as a Christian, I might say that's not good, that's not ideal, I should have locked him up, I should have stopped them, but I did the best I could. Both of he and his girlfriend had certain family issues and woundings, and certain exposure to Snapchat and you know, whatever online stuff goes on, trying to target teenagers that are vulnerable and get them involved in pyramid issues, pyramid stuff, pornography, and whatever. So that girlfriend became very much part of the family, and she confided in me one time that there was an occasion where Josh wanted to have sex and she didn't necessarily, and that it went ahead, and you know, it was upsetting. So I brought them both to family therapy. We were, you know, I've engaged with psychology and therapy counseling, whether Christian or secular. I knew that I was swimming upstream trying to raise 3 healthy children, you know, as a child sexual abuse survivor, as an MK Ultra survivor, as a single parent, as a, you know, whatever levels. I knew that I would have to fight tooth and nail to raise my children well. So I engaged with social services very successfully, with psychiatric not so much, but psychology, and so I did engage. But I also engaged with Christian counselling and deliverance ministries. So when Josh's girlfriend confided in me that, you know, there had been a time when he wanted sex and she didn't, and it went ahead, I took them both to family therapy, and they both engaged, and the girlfriend learned about speaking up and boundaries, and Josh learned also about, you know, this is not a football match, this is not a case of scoring a goal, this is a girlfriend, you know, and I wish there was proper education for relationships in school, you know, even in transition year. I don't mean the sex education where it's like, do you want to be a girl or a boy, or you know, I won't even verbalize the kind of things that they're trying to call sex education in schools these days. But I certainly think in this age of cyberspace and broken families and you know, ADHD or whatever, I certainly think there should be relationship counselling at a senior level in school. So it was a couple of sessions with a therapist, and beautifully resolved. His girlfriend learned to say, you know, I'm not in the mood, and Josh learned to realise a relationship is not a football match, and so on and so forth. And that was it, dealt with. They were very happy and carried on that relationship for at least another year. For different reasons, they've moved on, and Josh is in another committed relationship with a very beautiful young woman. And for him to be being attacked in order to silence me, for Josh to be being called a psycho and a rapist, is just is sickening. But as I say, I've transitioned from, oh my God, to, you know what, my children are grown, I've fought tooth and nail, and God has had their backs. And I pray that one day Josh will sit here and do, set up a YouTube channel and be communicative in order to reach out to his peers. He's very loved. His friends know that they can come to him and discuss things. He's got a gift. He's a gifted musician. He's a gifted sportsman. And, I just pray that he will shake off any shackles of shame from online targeting and harassment and character assassination. And then just to demonstrate a point of where what Larry Nichols calls these smear tactics, where you use the original malicious reporting as your proof evidence or so on. Should I take the time to show evidence or not even give it that? People like evidence, so let's just go. I'll just go minimize here. You cannot minimize when you are recording this meeting. Okay. All right. See, if I go just plain old screen share, sometimes let's just do it anyway. Do you know what? Let's just do it anyway. Right. So let's minimize that. The color scheme. Oh, okay. So Messenger. Right. First of all, Dee Gardner is putting out very malicious, untruthful bullshit. This just incidentally was my daughter saying when she discovered a fake profile in her name, I know you were emotional, Mum, as it was Fiona's birthday, but I found a post on a Hampstead site and there was a comment on it. I think it was about the Rupert case. Under my name, someone commenting as me, saying about being beaten with T-squares every day, etc. When you're awake and ready, I'll send you the links and screenshots. So that was that. There's my sister Fiona's gravestone with wrong birth date and wrong death date. And I do have this. A dark order of infiltrators and secrets. That looks interesting. Right, here's Cara O'Shea, who's very sadly been bereaved lately and also had surgery in Canada, which has had complications, but so she'll just have to forgive me on this. Cara O'Shea, I'll just click on this. Right, Dee Gardner exposed again. This was last year, September. Try and remember her serious crimes, people, when she and her few friends launched Facebook attacks against innocent people who've never ever been investigated, charged, or convicted of any crime. Dee Gardner is the proven convicted liar on multiple counts against copious people and differing false claims, including cancer, for which she was ordered by a judge, well, I'm saying by a judge because I know that, to produce proof of by the courts, and she could not. She claimed she was Brendan Smith's love child, but the dates do not match. I don't know about that. I did interview her, and she claimed, her mother was raped by Brendan Smith, and she was too. Brendan Smith, father Brendan Smith, based at Kilnacrock Abbey, amongst other places. Yes, he's a proven paedophile priest, very prolific. But let's just move on. She claimed to be spending the last year of her life in Gaza, helping the suffering. She fundraised to go there. That was in 2014 when she swore she had 1 year to live. Yeah, she said the same when I interviewed her. I think it was in 2016. She said she had 3 months to live. Well, 3 years later, she's still causing havoc. She claims to be she never went to Gaza. She's still alive. Where did the funds go that good people gave her? She claims to be followed and under attack by MI5 agents and PSNI. She never gives anyone photographic evidence of this. She never produces the evidence she has claimed to have showing anything negative about me, this Karachi attack. That's because no such proof exists, no more than it does of her latest ridiculous claims. I will never regret exposing her because good people were and still are giving her money. That's been proven is not going towards cancer treatment or trips to Gaza or whatever else she claims to be. Dee created fake accounts to look like she has support. She attempts to turn people on each other. When you're silent against lying bullies like her and her few gang members, you are as guilty as they are. When you do not want your quiet life bothered, and they threaten to do it to you if you don't join in with their attacks, then you deserve no support or defense when your turn comes. This well-written article again exposes this con woman for the British snake she is. Here we go, fantasist baby row. This was a newspaper. This is the woman, Dee Gardner, who's been claiming terminal cancer since 2014. Her latest, I'll try and show you in a different place what she's published lately. You can find this newspaper article, Trish Devlin, written by Patricia Devlin, yeah. Now, I'm cautious as well that if Dee is, and I do believe there is substance to her claims of being a child clerical sexual abuse victim, and her mother also. So it's not necessarily categorical proof when somebody featured in mainstream media is called a fantasist for saying a priest raped them or raped their mother and they were the product of that. I don't also hold categorical faith in a judge saying, show me your medical records proving you have cancer. Well, actually, that does stand up. Dee failed to produce her medical records. There was also testimony online of a woman who'd taken her in, and Dee was sitting at her kitchen table drinking tea, enjoying the hospitality, and the woman's daughter called her mum out of the room and said, "Mum, she's posting online that she's in hospital." So she's been caught many, many times. And I feel sorry for you, Dee. But you know what? Your latest attack makes me not feel quite so sorry for you. But actually, you are, I would assert you're either being paid or you've simply been flattered and groomed into cooperating with Hampstead Research, organised and orchestrated government trolls. The reason I say this is because Dee made up a ridiculous fantasy saying that she was at Kells Barracks, which is local to me. It's about a 20-minute drive away. And she said she was at, I'll show you. I'll find that. Let's just, people like to get out the web to get to Facebook. Here, we'll close. Yeah, Facebook, here we go. Now, I don't want to get this person, you know, feeling anxious, but this lady has helped by sending me what Dee has said. So she says, "You're a strong woman keeping the good fight up." Thank you. I've had so much support from people, both with the attack from Miles Johnston, Christine Hart, Dee Gardner. Who else? Add to the list. Anybody you want to? Wavy Evergreen. Who else? Well, you know, how long have you got? But listen, this is what Dee Gardner posted. at Kells Garda Station, where I've made a formal statement against Angela Power Disney, who's committed serious crimes of fraud, satanic cults, lies, stalking people and children online on social media, receiving over 300,000 euro. So far as GoFundMe is being investigated too. Who is behind that, where people can put up a free advert of GoFundMe and illegally receive thousands out of people who believed Angela Power Disney? I'll be doing a live feed on this very shortly, about 12 o'clock. I feel good. I've now started a very, very serious investigation. I'm disgusted how long and how many years Angela Power Disney has evaded the full force of law. GoFundMe is a great tool for local charities, etc., like going to Gaza when you never did, or getting cancer treatment that you didn't have. Really. Local charities, etc., but not for individuals to extort money illegally to heighten their lifestyle. Welcome to my lifestyle. As Angela Power Disney has done. I'll go into more detail on my live feed at 12. Now, she didn't get the response she maybe wanted from that, so she escalated. Now look what she posted next. She says she just got physically assaulted by Angela Power Disney's psycho son who knocked her teeth out, bastard. This is, I shouldn't be laughing. I shouldn't be laughing. My sons might want to take legal action, you know, and I have already put in a report informally to the Gardaí. But they've also developed a thick skin to this malicious. This is so ridiculous. You know, we all complain about surveillance, but both my son's friends' phones will prove they were nowhere even near Kells. One was in here with several mates watching soccer with me. The other was with a friend, and both their phones will verify their locations, which was nowhere near Kells. So she just got, that was in comments. Guys, I've pressed charges. Here's the latest fantasy from D. I've pressed charges against APD psycho son who smashed my tooth out because he follows me to Kells Gardaí Station for me to stop Angela Power Disney. I've got a live statement for assault and Angela Power Disney. I'm very sore. I just hope now the law does their job, dear God. Let me clarify here. Now, I have a live investigation with Kells Gardaí. This is D, supposedly still talking. I do not want to see any reaction until charges are brought to the both sons, as I later found out today early evening. A member of the public witnessed two young men in their late 20s. One punched me in my jawline, knocking out my tooth, caused 2 stitches to upper top lip. She's a fantasist. Threats to kill her on the allegation for charges as video evidence from a member of the public who witnessed the attack and videos the attack on me. That video is in evidence with the Gardaí. I've made it plain clear I do not trust RUC or Gardaí. Living in Ireland, occupied 6 counties, it's very difficult to trust the law. See, she appeals to the Republican movement. Well, Cara O'Shea and her recently deceased loved one were very prominent in the Republican movement, and Dee Gardner has created havoc. I think she's a paid disinfo. She's a bit like Shiva Burton. She's like the Irish version of Shiva Burton, in my opinion. Through the troubles learned, is that I condemn violence, vigilantes. I'm not going to stoop to Angela Power Disney's evil level or the 2 thugs who are now identified as Angela Power Disney's sons. I'm not gifted at fighting lawsuits. I'd rather remind people of what their eternal destiny is going to be. I pray somebody, somewhere, gets this woman locked up. Right, listen, I have to now follow the legals. They could sue her right there, now identified as my sons. Nowhere near. And I would suggest neither were you, Dee Gardner. You are a pathological, compulsive, proven liar. As much as it's going to down out, I have put my signature, which was very difficult in principle of being Republican and political activist for over 30 years. It can impede any trial if photo to identity suspect go up on social media. It deflects the whole reason I went alone to Kells Gardaí. See, she always goes alone because she doesn't go. She She ran everybody a ragged race, pretending to go and investigate Patrick Cullinan's funeral in Limerick. She had people volunteering to accompany her. She says she went alone and she took no photographs. Oh, you're a disgrace. Sorry, I'm trying not to be emotional. It can impede any trial if photo to identity suspect go up on social media, deflects the whole blah, blah, blah. I went alone to Kells Gardaí. I want to protect children. I want to protect innocent people, lives that Angela Power Disney has destroyed. And she's still continuing to do. Live investigation is happening. Gardaí went to the address early evening. They're missing at present. Total bullshit. All happily sitting in here watching soccer. Oh, dear God, help us. They're missing at present. Gardaí want me to go back to Kells tomorrow to identify the suspect on the video. The member of public took, very brave, a member of the public who no doubt lives there or outside, as his evidence will be out into a court. I know in Ireland too well the justice system fails us. I know too well silence is their cover-up. I also got a filter message threatening to murder me at my home address on this very issue. I have put myself in the firing line. This woman is very, very dangerous in her actions. A coward, but dangerous. I have to agree with Mike Dice. Flow Destroyer, Mike Dice, Hampstead Research. To allow the law to do their job, believe it, I will go to the ends of the earth for a trail, but legal in every way, shape and form, for victims and survivors around Ireland whose lives Angela Power Disney has destroyed, and Fern Moran life too. I don't even know who Fern Moran is. I have to. I don't like it. I would like nothing better to face Angela Power Disney and her sons. Bring it on. By the way, my sons would never hit a woman. Even if they saw you attacking me, the most they would do would be to restrain you. My sons have been very well raised. They would never hit a woman, let alone knock her tooth out, even if many people think you might deserve it. Oh my God. I cannot legally do that, as very serious charges are going to proceed when they are located right here. Always been right here. Oh, dear God, give me peace. Akara no mas. I totally understand, but let us not stoop to their level. Akara, everyone, especially from Phyllis Doherty Donnelly, who inspired me to go forward. Phyllis, you've been conned, sweetheart. I just hope one voice will take her off the streets of Ireland and around the world. Phyllis Doherty Donnelly's words of advice got me to go forward. Now my mouth, my lip, my plate is fucked. Dental surgery I will need. Want to fundraise for that? Do you, D? Along with going to Gaza and getting cancer treatment. Everything these people accuse the likes of me of is what they're guilty of. I'm not going to dwell on this much longer, but I wanted to give proof. Phyllis Doherty Donnelly's words of advice, blah, blah, but I won't be silenced. I want Angela Power Disney taken off the streets. Yes, that's the Satanist's desire, and you've aligned with them, possibly even been paid with them. Her son is a psycho. Not true. Not true. A live assault investigation is now with Kells Gardaí. Really? My statement also on Angela Power Disney. My only wish was that others came forward. But after the assault by Disney's son, I understand why. But my motto is shoot me, you won't silence me. You're fucking good at this, D. Gardner. You're almost as good as Shiva Burton. And I reply, God forgive me, the woman is insane. So none of the above happened. Absolutely not. Both sons were with mates, one here where I was too. Both their phones were proven in a court of law. They weren't even in Kells, let alone hitting a woman, which would never happen. So let's have a look. I'm so sorry. I hope, Jackie, that you forgive me, because this is the problem with sharing. If you don't share, people say you've got no evidence. And if you do share, people say you've compromised their confidentiality. So just forgive me, but this is serious. This is serious. And yet it's so predictable. One more thing, this is going on a bit long. I don't really like to do so long, but let me just show you my GoFundMe, which D. Gardner said had 300 grand in. It's hilarious. I've done this before. I've shown my GoFundMe, which has about 24,000 in it, mostly gifts in kind. 10,000 was from my sister dying, who left me 20 grand inheritance. I put 10 grand into my family, and I put 10 grand into going back to work. Another gift was a piece of art. If you go to my page, Art for Angels, valued at $10,000. That, or even euro, whatever you want to value at. That woman had art selling at 15,000 per painting, Colleen Black. She donated a piece of art to me and said, I don't mind if you sell it for your work, or if you keep it, or what you do with it. This is my gift to say thank you for working to expose evil. I chose not to sell it. It's beautiful. Somebody donated a video camera to me. I put the value of it up online. Somebody donate. People give me, I like to go back to the bartering. I no longer solicit funds, although 2 or 3 still do donate to me monthly. I would appreciate more than anything a tech support person, you know, to do Team Viewer and to do, you know, be an admin, a media master for me. That would be worth gold to me. You know, when I had my technology raided by the Gardaí, instantly somebody stepped up and said, I've got a PC, I'll send it to you. Somebody else said, I'll pay the shipping. Somebody else gave me a phone. I like that. So of 23, it's under, I'll tell you exactly where it is, because this has gone on long enough, and there are previous analysis of my GoFundMe. There's about 23, 24 grand. 10 was from my sister, 10 was gift in kind, probably another 2 were gifts in kind, that's 22. You know, even be generous and say the 10 grand from the inheritance, the 10 grand value of the painting. So even say I had 3,000 of cash donations since 2015. I earned every penny of that. There wasn't even that much. If you want to slander me, go to my GoFundMe, Journo Angie. GoFundMe /Journo, Journo, Angie. You will see, and if you go through the donations, I haven't updated it since about September. I haven't had a donation on there in months, and that's fine. But if you go through it, you'll see gift in kind, or so on and so forth. You'll see maybe 1,500, maybe 3 grand, maybe 2 grand of cash donations for what I do, and the travel I undertake, and the technology I pay for, and the putting my life on the line, and the use of my education, my training. I've been a journalist, I'm a published journalist, that's lied about too. But if you care enough to see what the liars are lying about, go take a look. Nothing to hide. So that'll, God, this could go on so long. Let me just address one more thing. I'm accused of having my daughter, 32 now, apologize to a paedophile. That is true. And that is also something which I have wept over, repented over, and paid a price for, with my daughter going into crisis over, and recovered from, been forgiven for, both by my daughter and by God. I, as I say, come from a multi-generationally abusive family. My daughter's father is not my ex-husband, so those that report my ex-husband as a paedophile, you're also lying, slandering, libeling, defaming, and I hope he would take legal action. So yeah, this legal action shit can take your whole life up. One of the reasons I don't go into legal action is because I was very good friends with a woman called Olive McFarland, and she spent the last 15 years of her life pursuing legal actions. And then she died a mysterious death. hit by a train on a crossing in Suffolk. And I just thought, my God, that woman had so much to give. You know, she was a targeted individual before we even knew that term. And the last 15 years of her life was swallowed up with legal proceedings. But anyway, so my daughter was molested by her birth father, who was not my ex-husband. He was a very, very skillful perpetrator. He was a school teacher. He was a published author in the New York Times and other places. He had visited Ireland. He had been investigated by social services previous with his first marriage with 2 children, second marriage. And he'd convinced them, professionals, he'd convinced them that he was innocent. My daughter was molested by him, and she disclosed it. She was molested by him age 6. She disclosed at age 11. I confronted him. Both he, my parents, a sister who worked in child protective services, all convinced me that he was innocent and that my daughter had disclosed falsely because I was hypervigilant as a child sexual abuse survivor. And God forgive me, I believed them. With a heavy heart, I was overwhelmed with, it's not true, and it's your fault. You know, the old argument of the mother coached the child. And back then, when my daughter was 15, no, when she was 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, but age around 12, I bowed to the family pressure that it didn't happen. In that time, my husband and myself and our children had moved to Dundalk to attend Dundalk Christian Fellowship. Grace Christian Fellowship, I think it's disbanded since. And we enrolled the children in Grace Christian School, still going, by the way, under a different name. And the pastor and his wife, Lucy Cooney, Hassan Boyle, Lucy Boyle, I guess she'd be known as, they actually, it was Lucy Cooney, Lucy Boyle, that said to me, I shared with her what was going on and how it weighed so heavily on me, and explained a little bit of Gabriella going off the rails. Any teenager will go off the rails if they disclose molestation and abuse and they're not believed. I should have known that. God forgive me. I am not perfect. I have fought tooth and nail to rescue not only myself, but my children from this disease called child sexual abuse denial and cover up. This is why I fight so hard. If you want to know why I do what I do, this is dirty down and personal. So I confided in this pastor's wife, thinking at the time the pastor and the church were good. And she was the one that said to me, you really need to ask Gabriella to write a letter to her father and ask him to forgive her. You know, that's appalling to be falsely accused of molesting his own child. It turns out she had very good motivation to fall on the side of protecting paedophiles. I ended up having a dossier of evidence on her husband, which I took to the local, I think it was called the Argus, the Dundalk Argus, and was told that although they had heard similar reports and rumblings about Hassan Boyle, that they didn't feel they could report because his uncle was a founder member of their newspaper. There have been others that have investigated Hassan and Lucy Boyle. So I was, when there's paedophiles and corruption all around you, it's very hard to be a lone voice in the wilderness saying something's not right. So from when Gabriella disclosed at 12 until she was 15, I am guilty, mea culpa. I held my hands up of not believing my daughter's disclosure and bowing to the pressure that she had been inadvertently coached because I was a survivor and hypervigilant. So at 15, we found some evidence on her birth father, which is not my ex-husband. And the shutters lifted and I went into her and I said, oh my God, you were telling me the truth. We collapsed in each other's arms, weeping. She was hugely relieved because I finally believed her. I took action immediately. I contacted the police in, what do you call it? It's in Sausalito. It's got a funny name. But anyway, I contacted the sheriff's department. I sent them the evidence I'd just found and the testimony my daughter had tried to disclose for 3 years, and God forgive me, not believed by me due to family pressure. And they agreed to set up a criminal standard polygraph test because that was one of the ways Gabriella's father had convinced me that it was totally made up. He said, I will fly to Ireland and take a polygraph. I'll take a lie detector. This absolutely didn't happen, Angie. Your daughter's hypervigilant because you are. And at that time I bought it, but then 3 years later, when I found further evidence on him and just the veil lifted, as I say, I contacted the authorities local to him in Sausalito in Marin County. They absolutely were brilliant and said, yes, we will facilitate a polygraph test, a criminal standard polygraph test. I informed him, and within, I think it was 3 weeks, he had sold or disposed of more than £1 million property portfolio and left the country for originally Cambodia and last known to be in Bangkok, Thailand. Didn't return for either of his parents' funerals. Went back to America very briefly to pick up an inheritance and never took the polygraph test. My daughter went off the rails for a while, quite deservedly, that I took 3 years to believe her. And I got her counseling. This was when she was 15. She's 32 now. We've moved on. But this is the GoFundMe, my son's issues with porn, which, by the way, I didn't settle for just secular. I did get secular help, and I have a letter. I was trying to locate it. It'll be in his record somewhere, saying that it was perfectly normal adolescent thing, and I was overreacting. This is the narrative. I was overreacting because of my history, but I didn't stop at that. I got him Christian counseling and deliverance, and he has never touched porn since. In the last 5 years, it's gone. It was a huge embarrassment, humiliation to him, and even worse that I put that out online. But look at the grace of God. Refer back to Through the Black, Tom Dunn's testimony. Check out the statistics, how multi-billion pound industry pornography is, and check your teenagers' phones. Trust me, this is not an isolated incident. So I've been through challenges raising my children mostly on my own and breaking free from the abuse cycle that goes through generations. And I'm not perfect. My children aren't perfect, but my daughter and I are reconciled, healed, and loving God, forgiven by God, forgiven for our shortcomings, forgiven for... I don't hold my children responsible for... You can't hold children responsible for being abused or even for not being believed. But my daughter's chosen to heal and move on. She's beautiful. My son's in a fabulous relationship. He is an absolute star. He's got character. He's got integrity. My youngest son, there's lies about that. I raised money for him to go for surgery in Florida, which he had, which mostly, again, was paid for by a family. So these lies have to stop. People like Dee Gardner, if I could be bothered she would be locked up. But I felt sorry for her. I thought she is a victim who's gone to the dark side and been groomed and recruited and maybe even paid to cause absolute havoc. But I wish somebody somewhere would come alongside. I pray right now, I don't need hundreds of thousands or millions. I did put up a GoFundMe for £1 million. I could spend 5 million quid with integrity, no problem at all. But I pray right now for somebody to help legally to report the likes of Wavy Evergreen, Christine Joanna Hart, Dee Gardner, Flow Destroyer. I pray, please, if you know anybody that can come forward and help take legal proceedings against these people, I would appreciate that. The second thing I pray for is a tech support person, somebody who could help me do, like for instance, Miles Johnson saying, copyright striking the interview that I did for him when he uploaded them. He didn't just give me permission, he uploaded them. He says Tajed it, maybe it was Taj. He uploaded them. Christine Hart got videos taken down, even though she gave me her passport and details. She admitted to lies. Just refer to 4 notes I wrote regarding Christine Hart and Max Spears when he passed on my Facebook notes, Angela Power Disney. I don't enjoy this stuff. I can prove up the kazoo when people lie against me. And to be honest, for those that won't spend the time to see if this malicious slander is true, I don't need you anyway. You know, it says in Proverbs, somebody's not just guilty for gossiping, but for listening to idle gossip, which is not true. If you want to repeat idle gossip, you have a duty of care to go research what you're saying and what you're duplicating. So those are my prayers. I did get some good news this morning. Even though I took down the 3 Anna Kavanagh videos, I put them to private for now. I've been assured at the highest level from the Gardaí that all the information was taken on board and is being looked at. And I'm talking disclosures. Gemma Doherty's had her live streaming faculties taken down on YouTube for similar attempts to expose sexual abuse within families that are covered up. That is covered up. Next video, I hope, will be joyful and with good news. God bless all. AngelaSCashes.org, where yes, I have donate buttons and I have my GoFundMe linked. No shame there. No shame there. If you appreciate what I do and you're in a position to financially donate towards it, that would be great. If you don't, that's great too. God is my provider. But if you can help with legal or technical support, or even just to agree with me in prayer for that, I'd be very grateful. God bless. I think I've addressed all the main torture, but I really don't want to go here again. But like when it gets to somebody like Dee Gardner saying, Angie's psycho son just knocked my tooth out, or people like Christine Hart saying, oh, I hope he doesn't rape Sarah Adams. I've never spoken to Sarah Adams, never messaged Sarah Adams, never had any, other than in public comments recently when I tagged her, never had any direct interaction with her. So Christine Hart, like I say, if people can help with legal and technical, I'd appreciate it.